Welcome everyone to resource allocation and the market, and we would look at in particular in this screencast demand and supply. This very interesting screencast was prepared by myself, Michelle Persad. Now, I want you all to think a little bit. What do you all think was the demand for cars in the year 1100? Weird question, right? Well, all of you all would probably answer none, because there were no cars at the time. However, if you asked this local Trinidadian at the time, would you like to have a vehicle which would allow you to travel much faster and could carry much more weight? I'm sure this Trinidadian here would tell you, of course, because it would save me time and effort. Therefore, there was a demand for cars in 1100, although it was an unspoken demand, because no one could have named a car as a solution to the transport problems. Interesting, right? But surely, everyone wanted to make their travels more effective and efficient. However, it was the supply that was missing. We as human beings always want to make our lives easier. I'm sure you all would agree with this. To have more time and live our lives in a more convenient way. Right? There's always going to be a demand for goods and services that is going to satisfy our needs. Therefore, we need to find someone who can supply us with these things. We need supply for our demand. I'm sure you all would agree with this. At the end of this screencast, you should be able to define the terms demand and supply. Interpret demand and supply curves. I'm sure this graph probably looks scary to you all right now, but don't panic. It would be clarified to you in a short while. Explain the determinants of demand and supply, which simply means what determines demand and supply. You would be able to interpret elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand? What is that? Well, don't worry. You would learn about it in a short while. Price elasticity. From a graphical representation, you would be able to interpret. Price elasticity, don't worry. You would learn about this in a little while. It's easy stuff, really. I'm sure you all would have come across the terms demand and supply previously. You will have known demand simply as how much of a product or service is desired by buyers, and supply simply as how much the market can offer, right? For the purpose of this course, demand is the willingness and ability to pay for a commodity at each and every price over a given period of time, and is subject to all else being constant. Ceteris paribus. And ceteris paribus simply means being constant in Greek. This is the demand curve. It is downward sloping, as you can see in this illustration. This graph depicts the relationship between price of a certain commodity. As you can see here, price is the vertical axis, and the amount of it that consumers are willing and able to purchase at any given price. Amount or quantity is on this horizontal axis here. It is a graphical representation of market demand schedule. Now, what determines demand? Well, the price of the commodity, as we just saw, will determine demand. Also, the prices of other commodities, such as complements, which is an item that goes together with a product, and substitutes, which is a product which can be substituted for the product. Also, the amount of income and wealth that the consumers have, and consumer tastes, as you can see in this diagram. Some of us prefer Coca-Cola, and some of us, like myself, prefer Pepsi. Now, this is a very interesting activity for you all. I want you all to put this video on pause and take 5 minutes to write down with examples what determines your demand for a particular commodity. This has to be submitted to your lecturer by email before the next class. Don't panic. This is another graph, and this graph shows an increase in demand. Yes, in economics, there's a graph to represent almost everything. So, from point A to point B, as seen in this downward slope here, is caused by a fall in price. Make sense, right? Take a second and think about what I just said. In addition, point A to C is caused by an increase in income. Think about it. It makes sense. Elasticity of demand. Don't get frightened by this formula. It is simply the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. And yes, you have to remember this formula for the final exam. It shows the responsiveness of demand to price. If price elasticity is less than 1, it is said to be inelastic. If price elasticity is more than 1, it is elastic. And if price elasticity is 1, it is unitary elasticity. And what is the main determinant of elasticity of demand? Well, the availability of substitutes, as we discussed earlier. This graph that you see here represents price elasticity. Now, based on what we discussed before about price elasticity, apply that knowledge to this graph. It makes a lot of sense, right? For the purpose of this course, the definition that we would use for supply is the willingness and ability to sell a commodity at each and every price over a given period of time, subject to all else being constant. And this is the supply curve, as opposed to the demand curve that was downward sloping, like this. The supply curve is upward sloping. And in economics, it is a graphic representation of the relationship between product price, which is seen on this vertical axis, and quantity of product that the seller is willing and able to supply, as seen here in the horizontal axis. Product price is measured on the vertical axis of the graph and quantity of product supplied on the horizontal axis, just to reiterate. Now, what determines supply, you may ask? Well, the price of the commodity, the prices of factors of production, the state of technology, and other goals of the firm. This is an increase in supply. A to B. this movement from A to B was caused by an increase in price. In addition, A to C is caused by improved technology. It makes sense, right? Now, elasticity of supply. This is another formula for you to memorize for the final exam. It is simply the percentage change in quantity supplied divided by this percentage change in price. It shows responsiveness of supply to price. If supply elasticity is less than 1, it is inelastic. If supply elasticity is more than 1, it is elastic. And finally, if supply elasticity is 1, it is unitary elasticity. And the main determinant of elasticity of supply is flexibility in production. Don't freak out. This diagram is simply supply elasticity. Apply what you just learned about supply elasticity to this graph and you'd see how simple it really is. Now folks, I want you all to watch this interesting video over and over again so that the definitions and concepts of demand and supply will stick. Also practice drawing all of the graphs that you saw in this video and it would become much easier to you. Remember to practice, practice, practice. You will have to apply the knowledge gained in this screencast in an individual quiz. You will receive detailed feedback on this quiz so that you can correct whatever isolated problems which you may have with this topic. You will be shown what was done correctly, what must be improved, and explanations would be included based on a rubric. You will be allowed to see content areas that you have not mastered. Please refer to your course outline for more information on this. Just to recap, you will have learned the definitions of supply and demand and the concepts of demand and supply. Thank you for watching this video. If you require further information on this topic, please refer to the Economics Network at this link seen here. Bye-bye.